Greetings. My name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the Core New Core, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. If you're interested in Pilates as just a practitioner, welcome to the MMP point of view. So keep that in mind. This is just my broadcast to help those mentioned survive and thrive by understanding the point of view. And so, number one, on today's morning news show, the anchors are citing what they want for health and fitness goals in the year to come. And one team wanted to make their core stronger. And so they showed doing a plank, okay? And which is a good example of core strength. What I think is sad is that their understanding of core is in a vague abstraction of whatever that means, rather than understanding that the core is a grip at the hip, right? So the core that everyone refers to within MMP is specifically acknowledging the biology establishing a physical grip within itself to take advantage of the rotational the physics of the rotational energy involved, stabilizing, defining an axis of rotation. And so the core is referred to right there on national television, seen by millions, and yet haven't even the Pilates culture hasn't gotten to the MMP point of view that, yes, there is a grip at the hips. Yes, you do control rotational dynamic at the hips. And off of that, you counter-oppose rotation for more stability and dynamic, optimum stability and dynamic between the two rotational capabilities. All right, so the core is so much more. Let's move on. I have 2 out of 6 coming. The second one is, let's see an 8-second inversion. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that on the Cadillac specifically, hanging from your hands upside down, inverted, okay, to where the body's in an inversion. So you have to have strong enough hands. You have to be willing to try that. It's just, don't do it without professional supervision and confidence that you can try it without falling flat on your head. See, but an inversion, if you have strength in your hands and your ability, first of all, to say, walk yourself around. Okay, so wow. To me, the inversion is like the last exercise because it shows a demonstration of alignment upside down, inverted. And you can call that a headstand, and yes, it is a headstand, but to me, the wider understanding of a headstand is when you are standing on your head. And an inversion is when you're anchored at your shoulders through the use of your arms and your grip. So it's in the strength of your shoulders that you're holding yourself upside down, not bearing the weight of your body all through the neck and head, or even with alternative hands on the floor as additional contact points. See, it's all very dangerous. Don't do it. Don't do any of it. That's why I hear tales that when Joe passed away, Clara X'd out the headstands on the reformer because the alignment through the neck is so fragile, right? And this is why, if you're not, a headstand is the weight of your body going through your neck into your head, is how I think of that. And it's just difference in terminology, but I want you to understand that the inversion in MMP is on the Cadillac hanging from your hands upside down. And after whatever leg options we can talk about later, the ideal is being able to be inverted, aligned, upside down, and still as a mouse. And so my title on number 2 is, and this is because in bull riding and horseback bronc riding, it's an 8-second clock to have control or stay on for 8 seconds. And that can be a long time, and yet not that long, but at least for 8 seconds, let's see if you're going to demonstrate inversions. Let's see it for 8 seconds. So why do I say this? Because in my social media going by, there's finally someone actually hitting vertical and then going to and they call it a headstand, and then going out with arms behind in the gymnastic move, like with rings behind you, a plank, and then to a move where the hands are on the bars and the legs are held vertical and up and down, calling that a teaser. Okay? Way impressive. But what I'm here to point out to you is, as a Pilates instructor familiar with MMP, where you would take a really advanced student like that, if they're a student, to me they're a student because I'm talking about what I would have to teach them, teach you, and that's the profession and the assumption of the relationship that one doesn't have to necessarily engage in or identify with or accept. See? I'm just saying that, using that as an example. In this example, if you see it, what I see is too much of this in the neck and a point in the foot, and really the giveaway is in the neck, because it shows there isn't core new tension between the shoulders and the ears. And for that to really be truly engaged and lined up, the shoulders have to naturally fill out into where it belongs within the biology of what we have as a body, embracing the physics that we're striving toward. And so in this beautiful effort and movement, you could be really scared about what would I ever take to this person, to this student, where would I go with it? But I always talk about that, right? If you were climbing through the camera and you were the instructor, where would you take it? And to me, I would and in that moment, what would I say? Chin to ceiling are my words. That's 3 words, but it immediately takes someone who doesn't really aware of core tension or whatever, and by taking their chin to ceiling, 3 words, you're begging the muscular engagement that you're after. Finding your shoulders was the note that I took. But see, that whole thing of chin to ceiling, what you're looking to do is engage your body in a way that creates tension, that yields the alignment that comes from that. And so, my number 2 is, let's see 8-second inversions. And to me, that would assume you're all the way at that advanced level of, and you have guidance and support and purely as a in doing chin to ceiling, that creates an endpoint of rotation around the ears. And then the strongest, closest point, easiest to make, is pressing out through the heels, endpoint at the ankles, and going from ankles through ears, opening enough in the shoulders to find where that alignment exists. See, and that may be just an MMP point of view, but to me, alignment is perceptible, and your body can coalesce into it. And this is just the MMP point of view. And so what I would love to see next from the beautiful demonstration that we saw. Oh, and where would I take it further? Where would I go like this? Well, first of all, just to make the alignment better in the body by going cornu, ears to ankles. And then it went to pike, and pike would be just the same thing, ears and ankles. And then it got called a teaser. And the legs were perfectly vertical, which is what I want to point out. They were beautifully held vertically, right? But now if you were to take that someplace beyond that, if you wanted to challenge the practitioner in light of your understanding of Pilates, where to go from what they're doing, is to know that when their legs are going up and down vertically, it's not that much of a load as if they were actually in the angle of a teaser in space and going up and down, which is an issue of loading, right? So, in MMP, it's nice to be able, without effort and without jiggling the carriage, to come with continuous tension up into an inversion, and without any need for any more balancing than what you're hanging in for gravity and what you're hanging off of. You find a calm, or you slide into a calm, and you hold that calm in alignment for 8 seconds. So that takes me to number 3. Is there a difference between static tension and dynamic tension? And so, please, I wanted to keep this at just a layman's understanding of tension and not get into the scientific terms of what tension is and what the difference is between the two, because I don't know. in in my in my opinion, the MMP point of view, or my point of view, would be that static tension is when you're clenched in your body and that your musculature has the nature of a static engagement. Whereas a dynamic tension has give to it, is where what's dynamic? What's different about clenching than what I think of as dynamic? And the dynamic has give to it, and where does the give come from? And that's having 2 points. And so, in pursuit of the inversion, or anything in Pilates, there can be a muscular clench to it. And it's very, in a way, isometric and oriental in flow, and yet constricted in static. You know that better than I do, but I'm thinking about that in terms of coming from this whole discussion of inversions. And so that takes me to number 4, which is titled Being, Thinking, and Observing. Does that ring a bell? Being, thinking, and observing. If you've heard me before, or perhaps hereafter, being, thinking, and observing are the capacities in the human being that MMP attribute to Joe's definition of body, mind, and spirit. Okay. Why did I bring you to that? Oh, because we're talking about being, thinking, and observing in light of a very advanced student that is unaware of, evidently, or they would embody it, right? Why would they not embody truer alignment and more uniform engagement? There's a good question. Because they don't want to go there. And I don't know why, but this is the MMP point of view. And so, in being an instructor, crawling through the window and instructing that expression, chin to ceiling engages core new tension from, and that's just in that particular circumstance. You may find other words, but a 3-word cue in the moment of trying to do that. Why? Why is it a moment? Why does the moment matter? Because hand strength, your own grip in your hands, is rarely, in most human beings, just my opinion, just my experience teaching, the grip in the hands is the first thing to give out under the whole weight of the human body, especially standing still. So there's so many, you tell your student, first of all, you establish a good enough grip, right? You've done other exercises and done a lot of other things that has led you up to reaching for the accomplishment of the exercise. And to me, the exercise is holding an inversion for 8 seconds. Because that doesn't mean you're in motion, up swinging around in space, but that you can be inverted at ease. And if it's 8 seconds, it can be 30 seconds. It can be as long as your grip holds out. The point is that you establish and hold a position that is an obvious expression of control in the position. No different than in gymnastics, right? But to take someone that seems really gymnastics oriented, and help them, or okay, that's why we're going to being, thinking, and observing. There you see a magnificent expression of a human movement, right? Way, way qualified and capable in their being, right? And what struck me is the likelihood that that beingness, that capacity of the human being involved is there, but the thinking has never been introduced to the idea of oppositional rotation between axes and looking for the sensation that comes off of that. And that's where you, as an instructor, in all humility, you observe their being and you recognize the absence of their thinking in a way that their mind, it doesn't have the imagination necessary to provide the feedback, the corrective part of this loop, that the observing can engage in and adjust to. That sounded rather circular. Being, thinking, and observing. My point is that with that advanced student and all that being capacity, it's in their thinking that you can introduce imagination or an image that allows them or guides them into a means of engaging their body to provide, that will and does provide a sensational feedback. That is why you can come into and find the position and hold it with ease. And to me, that then becomes the body adjusting to gravity, upside down, and allowing gravity to rinse through it by the purity of the engagement that provides the stretch, the elongation of the spine, because the whole body is engaging in core nu tension. And it's from the core nu tension, especially from ears to shoulders and shoulders to hips, so dynamic tension for me and MMP and just my musings, nothing cast in stone, but it seems that in the MMP world of acknowledging core nu tension, in the MMP world of acknowledging core nu tension, dynamic tension, we're talking about engaging at least 2 endpoints or more as a way of distributing load and making alignment perceptible. And what a treat to take someone with such capacity in their being and unaware in their thinking of a means to engage themselves, an image, a way that makes alignment observable to the point that it's no big deal because you're lined up in it, because you know how to engage your body dynamically, upside down, inverted, in a gravity field, and you're completely aware of that alignment. And so, in asking for, what more, please, I want to see an inversion first and foremost with an endpoint from ankles to ears. Ankles to ears. And that really strong and really comfortable with that, before you explore the feeling of what it means to let go of the ankle as an endpoint and reach out into your metatarsals. And then full metatarsals at first, especially if you're dancing in this world. Engage in that, contrary to everything you live in as a dancer. And then, once you know how to maintain your engagement at your metatarsals as an endpoint of tension, you could curl your toes over. But recognize the trade-off in what you feel, and see, that's the point, is from the inside out, and much better to be really strong from your ears to your ankles than what you might give away by trying to reach out into your endpoint of tension at your metatarsals. For me, that's one of the reasons why the long stretch on the reformer is in dorsiflexion. That means pressing out through your heels. And that whole exercise happens ankles to ears. And that you can go to your metatarsals and you can go to a pointed curled over foot. But if we're after developing the strength and the uniform engagement, I think it's always proved beneficial to go deeper in what's there originally than to extend beyond what's already there. I'm not saying you can't, and that I don't, and that everybody does in their contribution with their point of view. So, in summarizing number 4, being, thinking, and observing, the instructor takes notice of, crawls through the screen, takes notice of the alignment, and given that whole structure of teacher, student is acquiesced to and everything's signed up and good, chin towards ceiling to me is 3 words that adjust the rotation of the ears. And press out your heels, right? And soften your knees maybe. Forces the endpoints at the ears and the ankles to interact with each other. And you have to get involved in your shoulders. That you can take a person that's living in a static engagement and into what I consider a dynamic engagement through oppositional rotation between axes. It makes it sensational. And as I've said all along, alignment makes alignment, right? What am I on? Number 5 originally was, if you can point, you can engage in core tension. But I kept arguing with myself about how to say that, and I'm changing the title to, if you can imagine, you can engage in core tension. Because across human nature, there are those who don't want to imagine at all, and like everything the way it is, or are unwilling to imagine in any area or to any depth that is beyond their interest. That's human nature. And there's so much of the world, you really do have to filter everything out that you're not interested in. You really do have to filter everything out that you're not interested in. But if you can imagine core new tension, if you can hand a person a sticker, if they can sort of say, okay, there's, how was that, palms down, chin up? And then as you rotate your palms up, you curl around your ears to look straight ahead, and you pull your ears back away from an unwanted kiss. So that you can feel a stretch from the back of your neck down the front of your chest. Or at least that's the tension that you're creating by doing those things. And that's why core new tension is such an immediate gift to a person, anybody, because that body has weight in space. That's my point. It has a load. And that to the extent that you can engage in core new tension, which the body is headed there in its capacity to do it, whether it knows it or not, just implanting the image, not even doing that, just engaging in the tension creates an immediate distribution of load that is advantageous to the human being engaging in that tension. Now that assumes that they're able enough to do it and that they're headed toward that, and they don't hurt anything in trying to advance the ability to get there. Right? So, let's go to number 6. Number 6, teaching advanced students. And I think I used the word teaching there. Maybe not. Maybe it's instructing. But Joe definitely makes a paragraph that they aren't patients if he's teaching them. They're students. They're students of a method, right? And there is something to learn. It's not just something to get. It's just not trying to get better. It's not trying to get away from something as much as it is going towards something. And what is that towards? Very simply, contrology develops the body uniformly. And so you're working towards control, because that's the name of the method, and you're working toward a uniform effort in it, developing the body uniformly. So teaching advanced students, gosh, my first note, and really my only note, is to protect them. Protect them. You know, wherever they say that they want a lesson, when you're picking up any student, I have my arms out like this, and you pick up your student as an ice skater at the edge of the lake, and they step out onto the ice, and your job is to keep them from hurting themselves or from falling down, and you skate out onto the ice for them to try to get the hang of it. Right? And the metaphor goes that when the ice gets thinner, you have to pay more attention and keep it more together, move faster across the ice in a way, if to avoid falling in. All the while, as the instructor holding your student, as they're skating along. The more advanced the student, the more danger you are both in as teacher and student. Because the danger for both of them is that the teacher, the instructor, so grateful to have a body that's more advanced than what they're used to getting and being able to be an instructor of, that the teacher takes an indulgence in what they want to teach based on what they want to have practice in, or it's their agenda for why things are being taught rather than the students. And in that regard, you end up out onto too thin of ice, because you're on the thin ice of pursuing your agenda with an advanced student rather than your first agenda, which is to protect them. So right away, your main thing is to be sensitive to the ice and not be looking for thinner ice, but a greater depth of exploration with the ice at the level that it's in. That's contradictory in a way, but depth and all of it. My point is that with such a beautiful example of movement on the Cadillac, labeled headstand, plank, and teaser, if you were to crawl through the screen as the instructor, regardless of anything else, you could make a cue in 3 words that would lead seriously toward where you want to go that they obviously are unaware of. My opinion. And it shows up for me in a little bit of film where someone can, yes, be in vertical, but it ends up as something else easily earlier than 8 seconds. And so there's the second thing I'd do. It came down. How's your hands? Your hands okay? You ready to go again? You sure you want to go again? Let's call it that. That was beautiful. But no, that student stands there and they want to go someplace else or someplace beyond or just get anything that you have to give them. Where are you while this is all going on in your student? Where are you? To me, I'm within reaction time of a reflex without moving my feet that would deviate a vertical ascent through the head, right? Where a person, my student would land on their head. Right? The whole great thing about the caddy and the inversion is to be able to be upside down and reach through the line to find what you're after without enduring the weight of gravity through your head, doing what I think of as a headstand, which means bearing load through your neck. Now, being all aligned and in position and losing your grip and losing track of what's going on is where there's huge risk in all of it, of course. That's why I've always said and say now, don't do anything without professional instruction. You know, what you want is all of the wow and not all of the sorrow, right? If things go south. Right? So an advanced student, I'm scared to death of things going south on my watch. And yet they rely on getting whatever it is they think is special from me because they're willing to pay for the session. And that's where it comes back to always for the instructor is to know what you're after, know what you're about. Right? and to not try to be more than what you are, or to extend beyond your range of control. See, contrology. And that range of control in the sense of two dynamic points, you engage those in a uniform way. And when you're engaged in a uniform way, like hydraulic pressure maybe through a hose, but you're uniform in it, and a crank happens, and you use the quality of what you're after, I only hope that by the year 4040, which is in 21 years from now, I'll have to look at my math, over 2,000 years from now, you'll at least know about coronary tension. And that's, see, you may not be ready to even consider what may be in store for you when it comes to understanding Pilates from a particular point of view. But before you ever get to that, if you at least come to recognize the value of coronary tension in the body, the presence of it, and the value of being able to imagine engagement of it, to line up in space, and to do it by stretching yourself out in space. You know, when you make endpoints, what you get in that engagement is elongation. How does the spine elongate? You know, how do you stretch the spine? Well, the body's muscular engagement pulls it apart. How can it be any other way? All right, so. And that's my closing remark is ignore physics at your own risk. Ignore the role that physics plays in understanding Pilates at your own risk. And maybe you have none, because you feel like, well, I know Joseph Pilates, and he trained me, and I have pictures of me with him, and those are few and far between living human beings. And then there's the next generation of, you know, see yesterday's, I think, discussion about attic archives. Ignore physics at your own risk. And then don't underestimate your knowledge of coronary tension, meaning knowing about that and how important that is. Many advanced students have never. And the good news, to survive and thrive as a Pilates instructor, see what I'm saying? Don't underestimate what you know about coronary tension, because there's a whole pool of Pilates aficionados out there that are unaware of it. As in case in point, the gymnast doing some things on the caddy. And to me, to you, is as the instructor in that situation, where would you go with that? And it's just so easy in looking for coronary tension between shoulders and ears, and having a sense of tension at the ankles first and foremost, because mostly that's the point of the anatomy. When you end a Pilates session, is you're standing, you're not on point. And so to take the very end of the Pilates mat work, the last exercise, and it's like a test to see, did you get what that means? Let's go over to the Cadillac and do an inversion. So you're flat-footed, upside down, in alignment, calm as could be. As the instructor, you're nearby to protect someone in that position. Always, as a Pilates instructor, you're nearby to protect as a position. And what made me even more acutely aware of that is in some forms of apparatus, there is a frame around the reformer which places bars in the way that I'm not used to getting to my student. Or wasn't used to, till I adapted. But the point I'm making is being within reach matters, so that you avoid something going south and everything goes deeper into control rather than spiraling out of control. And there's nothing easier to recognize than control. Other social media, I mentioned yesterday, someone on their knees going from close at the shoulders to further away, out the arms, in and out on a ball, right? Rocking in and out on a ball. But the rocking was 5 points on a line: knees, hips, shoulders, and ears. No, 4 points. 4 points. Knees, hips, shoulders, and ears. Right? On their knees. Not engaged, but knees, hips, shoulders, and ears. 4 points on a line. And then moving first close to center and where the body is relative to the ball, and then moving further away from center, but still 4 points on a line. Embodiment is the ultimate authority. And when you know that your embodiment has something to do with alignment, not just in the way something sort of looks or kind of is, but the alignment that happens off of the endpoints that the body physically engages in, know what you know, right? Make money in presentation just explaining CT and MMP. I've said this all along, right? 5 things. Joe's definition, Joe's promise, and Joe's sequence. Now, if you know those 3 things cold, you stand on the rock of Joseph Pilates, what's in his book, and everything else you stand on, rooted in that, at least you're coming on something from Joe. And then if it's the MMP point of view you're after, definitely learn about core new tension first, oppositional rotation between axes. It's a biomechanical thing, right? And then point out one point of view out of 10,000 called MMP that defines Pilates as uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement. And if that's too much, it steps outside of conventional. It goes beyond conventional, aristocratic, colloquial Pilates and goes somewhere else that isn't here. You know, it goes somewhere that's not here. And I would explain it as neoclassical because it takes what's classical, Joe's original pictures, words, and film, and from that points to an ideal within it, or at least MMP is a theory based on the evidence in Joe's book that there's an ideal within his method. It has an essence of its own. And to the extent that it does, none of us need to worry, because it will always be what it is in and of itself, regardless of what we make of it. I'm so grateful to get to be able to do this again, and thank you if you've come in on it late or listened to the whole thing. It's always a weird feeling of having had a chance to broadcast here on YouTube. Before then, trying to get the technology to work to hopefully immediately go to a live broadcast in Facebook. Sometimes I think that YouTube gets the better of the deal in that I'm not influenced because I can't see who's watching. And it's the first time I've tried to vocalize my notes. And yet, perhaps the second time around the merry-go-round, right, ought to be hopefully clearer or more distinguishable. What I'm trying to say, discernible. Life can't live forever. Read between the lines, see behind the curtain, add two and two, direct your thinking, Geist